Hi, it's Robin. Okay, no, it's not. I am a big fan, though, of Robin Harbrin of 8-Bit Show and Tell. If you are not familiar, think Bob Ross, only instead of painting, he does 8-bit computing. And by 8-bit computing, I mean mostly Commodore. Now that we've got that straight, what the heck are we doing here? And why am I channeling my inner Robin, hands and everything? You see, I love Commodore, but Robin really loves Commodore. A while back, Robin posted a video about pulling a Commodore 64 program from an album from 1984. It was really cool to see him do this. And then a few months ago, Robin posted a follow-up video about this same band, Prodigal. One of the band members' kids and the original author of the program contacted Robin about it. One thing led to another, and today we have a reissue of the album with a new program on it, written by Robin himself, and the old one is on the opposite side. I happen to have a copy of this. There's a really cool write-up on the back of it. It talks a little bit about how 8-Bit Show and Tell featured this program that was on the back of it, and I guess the kids of a couple of the band members had actually never seen this thing that they had talked about, where they put a Commodore 64 program on an album. And I'm doing this video because Robin couldn't help himself. If you watch any of Robin's videos from the past, and you should, we'll put a link in the show notes, Robin included an Easter egg inside the Easter egg in air quotes, and challenged his viewers to find it. As far as I know, I'm the first one to find it. There is a Patreon exclusive video, and you should support Robin via Patreon for real, where he apparently reveals the Easter egg at the end. And I have been very careful not to reveal it to myself. I really wanted to figure this out on my own. So this leads us to a problem. How do you get a piece of software on the inside groove? So the songs are here, and then you can see there's a runner in the middle, or whatever they're called. I'm actually not old enough to remember. And then right inside here, in this groove, is an audio version of a Commodore 64 program. Side B has the original one from the original release of the 1984 album. So despite what you might have heard on YouTube and YouTube commenters might say, it's actually not terribly straightforward to get a program from an album onto a Commodore 64. This happens to be my Commodore 64 from when I was a kid. I spent a long time restoring it. It does work. And if you look at it, this is an original bread bin. There are no audio jacks. This sort of looks like an audio jack. That's actually RF output for a television, where you'd select channel 3 and 4, cassette port. So there's no audio interface at all, at least not an easy one. There are solutions to this that you can buy on eBay. But it's not terribly straightforward. And the solution that is available on eBay plugs, I think, into the user port, maybe into the cassette port, and then you can have a direct audio in. But I don't have one of those. So I had to kind of come up with a way to get it off of the album and onto my Commodore 64. We're going to be using my Commodore 64C today. So I do have one of these. I don't know where this came from. It actually says Walmart on the back. This is shockingly bad audio quality. So, you know, when in the original video, a lot of people gave Robin a hard time about just saying, you know, just plug it into the computer. You know, well, where? So I do have this audio recording device. Like I said, it's shockingly bad quality. And I do have a working Commodore dataset, which is the original way, the first way really, that you could get programs onto your Commodore via cassette tape. These are really, really slow. But I figured if I could get the audio off of the album onto a tape, maybe I'd be able to load it into here. So a small tangent, this actually took me quite a long time to figure out, and my Commodore computers actually rotate on my desk in this spot. I ended up using over a couple days almost every single vintage computer I have at one point or another to kind of fiddle around with this. I do have a day job, so I went back and forth and you know, during conference calls and that sort of thing, I kind of noodled with, you know, maybe trying to figure out what this Easter egg was. The one thing that I knew for sure or at least I was pretty sure, was that it involved a keyboard in some way. I didn't think there was a joystick interface or anything like that, and really the keyboard was what I concentrated on. So I used my beloved childhood bread bin, my Problem Child 128. It needs its own video. Silver Label case actually has my Ultimate 64 inside, and then the C64 emulator machine. Today we're going to be going over this on my 64C, both because it has pretty decent video for a 35-year-old computer, and it's the one that sits on my desk the most. This is the one that I think has the best keyboard, actually, by a mile. So where to start? I put my record on the record player, and I actually was wondering a little bit about the audio quality of this horrible tape data cassette machine. So I figured I would scrub it through my Rode Podcaster. I happen to have really decent audio gear from being a podcaster forever. And I figured at least if I got it into the Rode Podcaster, I knew that the signal that I was going to get into this cheapo data cassette player recorder would at least be something I could make adjustments to rather than try to just go from the fly. So that actually ended up working really well. I ended up with both programs. I actually recorded both programs onto this cassette. This is a cassette I actually bought on eBay. You can still buy cassettes apparently on eBay. And then I put it into my data set. And loaded them both up. I'm going to cheat, and I hope it's okay with you today. I actually have also copied these over onto my Ultimate 64 because I want to flip back and forth between the programs very quickly. And the data set actually takes a pretty long time. The second one, the Electric Eye, takes almost a minute. I don't think you want to sit here for a minute listening to me babble more than I'm already babbling. So we're going to take a look at these programs here. On the disk, we list a directory of Electric Eye, which is the original one, and then Electric Eye 2. So for those of you that haven't seen the original videos that Robin did, we'll put a link again in the show notes. But let's just look at these one at a time. So this is the original one. And this was just a really simple text output. It's an Easter egg. It actually happens to be in BASIC. And this, from an Easter egg standpoint, ended up being really important to figuring this out. So one of the things that Robin pointed out in the video, and if you look at the screen, there is this, at the end of this line 1 here, there is this TCB 1984. It's really common for programmers to put their initials inside the program and the year that they wrote the program into it. So TCB 1984, there's actually, again, the amazing YouTube commenting horde, always right about everything, had this wild tangent about TCB meaning taking care of business. And it turns out that TCB is actually the initials of the author. And then the author contacted Robin about this particular thing and told him the whole story. So again, look in the show notes for the links to those, because Robin actually interviewed the original programmer of this. But this right here, TCB 1984, ended up being pretty crucial later on. Spoiler alert. Oh, that's the other thing. Obviously, this video is going to spoil the Easter eggs. So if you want to figure these out for yourself, maybe come back and watch this later. So that's the original program. We'll go down to the bottom here, and we will load the second one. Electric Eye 2. Again, this one on the tape takes, I think it was about a minute. So this is much quicker to do it this way. I've got my Ultimate 2 plugged in, and that's actually on an SD card. So there is some music that plays in the background. This particular 64C happens to be a PAL machine, and I guess whatever the music player is, that Robin used, I guess a friend of his helped him with it. It accounts for the fact that this is a PAL machine, because they actually sound just fine on both PAL and an NTSC. And the lightning here is actually procedurally generated. There's a really great video, again, if you're a patron of Robin's, where he runs through how this lightning is procedurally generated. And then there's a smooth scrolling text across the bottom. And actually on my screen, it looks better than the video capture. I'm looking at the monitor on the video capture. It's actually really, really smooth, and I don't think the video capture is doing a great job of keeping it smooth. There's a little bit of a frame drop in the video capture device that I have. But this is it. This is what I had to work with in order to figure this out. And I ended up taking a lot of notes. I've been a fan of Robin's for a while. I've seen every single one of his videos, probably more than once. And a couple of the places, and I'm going to go through this really quickly now that you have the backstory, but about how I got this. But I went down all these roads. I went to the band members' names. One of the band members, Lloyd, I think it's Lloyd, passed away. So I kind of concentrated on Lloyd for a while, and I would sit here and type things like Lloyd, and I tried, 1994, and I didn't get anything for a really long time. And then I kind of went back and looked at some of the other videos again, and I have all of these notes about Electric Eye and a 1984 release. And the other thing that Robin and I joke about all the time is this term lamers, Robin's lamers. Another YouTube commenter did a really good job of saying that, by explaining how to program on Commodore 64, that you're creating lamers. And we can't have that sort of thing. So I tried Sir Robin, and then I went back to this TCB thing, Taking Care of Business, which is actually, again, the author's initials, link in the show notes. So I tried that, TCB, and there is the Easter egg. So the music is by Sam W., TCB 2020, and then the code was written by Robin H. And then it goes away. And I thought, okay, that wasn't actually that hard. I got this one in maybe, I don't know, I think it was one conference call and maybe 20, 25 minutes, and I had that one. And I pinged Robin. I sent Robin a message, and I said, is there only one? And he said, actually, no, there's two. And I thought, oh, great. So this is the one that took me a really, really long time. Again, if we look at this particular Easter egg, then now I focused really heavily on this TCB 2020. And I thought, okay, 2020, TCB 2020, and, and it comes back up, and I didn't really even know what I was looking for when I found it. So really, really long story short, then I started, I'm trying to remember which video I went to, but Robin had talked about holding down multiple keys in one of his videos. It's probably a year or two ago. So then I started doing that. So I thought, okay, 2020, that doesn't make any sense because it's only a 20 and I can't really hold down more than one. And then I eventually got around to, really, really long story short, 1984. And if you see, it says for best results, plug record player directly into the C64. So this is a little dig to the trolls on YouTube, and it's very in line with Robin's kind of humor. And then this is the other Easter egg. I thought this one was really, really clever, and I really, really enjoyed finding these two Easter eggs as part of being kind of Robin's, I don't know, maybe I'm like a super fan. I'm a fan of Robin, and highly suggest that you find it. So I hope you enjoyed this. There is one other thing that was really interesting that he and I talked about last night, is that the way the keyboard matrix works. I'll put a link to a fascinating article by a friend of ours who writes for 64os.org or .com. Check the show notes. And he talked about how this, in detail, about how this keyboard matrix works. But if you can hold down a couple other combinations for it to come up with, because you can't exclusively just have 1984 because of the keyboard grid layout. So I did notice that 210 works, and I think 219 also work. And I'm glad I didn't find those first, because those wouldn't have made sense. TCB 1984 made a whole lot of sense. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.